Morning, Nigeria, and thank you for joining us on yet another exciting edition of a Daybreak on Trust TV. We're live in the Federal Capital Territory, and I'm Darshan Husseina Usman.
Hello, good morning, and welcome. It is a lovely Monday morning, and of course, it's Trust TV's Daybreak. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
Well, the supplementary elections, happened over the weekend, and we actually saw a lot happen from voter apathy in some places, large voter turnout in some places, vote buying in some places, and, a lot of drama ensuing, especially in Adamawa State. But we'll get to talk more on that, in the course of the program. But for now, let's take a look at the highlights of the stories that we actually have for you at this hour. Adamawa CDD, Yaga Africa want action against REC and others.
32-year-old unionist unseats fourth-term rep in Sokoto.
Dino Melaye clinches PDP Guber ticket in Kogi State.
Now the details. The Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, and the Yaga Africa have condemned Sunday morning's declaration of Senator Aisha Dahiru, also known as Binani, as the winner of the Adamawa State governorship election. This is contained in separate statements on the verified Twitter handles of the two organizations. The Resident Electoral Commissioner for Adamawa State, Professor Yusuf Hudu Ari, had declared Binani as winner of the election under controversial circumstances. This is as the state's collation officer, Professor Mohammed Mele, whose responsibility it is to announce the results and declare the winner, was nowhere to be found. The Center for Democracy and Development called on INEC to sanction all erring officials who carried out this illegal announcement and ensure that results are publicly available to all citizens. The Yaga Africa, on its part, noted that the declaration of results by the INEC's REC for Adamawa State is in violation of Section 64 and 65 of the Electoral Act of 2022 and part of INEC guidelines, which vests the power to declare results solely on a returning officer appointed by INEC.
The Center for Democracy and Development and the Yaga Africa have condemned Sunday morning's declaration of Senator Aisha Dahiru Binani, also known as Binani, as winner of the Adamawa State governorship election. Now, this is contained in separate statements on the verified Twitter handles of the two organizations. The Resident Electoral Commission for Adamawa State, Professor Yusuf Hudu Ari, had declared Binani as winner of the election under controversial circumstances. Now, this is as the result coalition officer, Professor Mohammed Mele, whose responsibility it is to announce the results and declare winner, was nowhere to be found. The Center for Democracy and Development called on INEC to sanction all erring officials who carried out this illegal announcement and ensure that results are publicly available to citizens. The Yaga Africa, on its part, noted that the Adamawa State is in violation of Section 64 and 65 of the Electoral Act 2022 and part of INEC guidelines, which vests the power to declare results solely on a returning officer appointed by INEC.
And in Kogi State, Senator Dino Melaye has emerged the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate. According to Senator Ahmed Bagarfi, the chairman of the PDP Primary Election Committee, who announced the results, said Senator Melaye got 313 votes to clinch the ticket. He also disclosed that Ilona Idoko Kingsley scored 124 votes, Usman Muhammad Kabiru got 121 votes, and Abayomi Sunday Awoni, a former deputy governor, polled 77 votes. The party primary election was held at Kafas Hall Event Center in Lokoja amid tight security. Engineer Wada Musa secured 56 votes, Ojaja Gideon Enama got 5 votes, and Olufemi Olariwaju scored 2 votes. Senator Magarfi declared that 6 votes were recorded void. Now, correspondent reports that one Abdullahi Haruna withdrew from the race before voting commenced.
All right, well, with that, we'll wrap up highlights at this hour and move on to more packages. Now, there's an uneasy, calm and growing tension in Adamawa State following Saturday's governorship election rerun, and the state resident electoral commissioner, Hudu Ari, purportedly declared APC candidate Aisha Binani winner of the runoff poll without presenting the distribution of scores. Take a look.
Election processes are backed by a constitution and guidelines of the electoral law. There are stipulated procedures from voting, collation of results, and subsequent declaration of winners. However, this was not the case with Adamawa State governorship supplementary election as protocols were breached and the constitution overridden.
The highest vote.
No.
How? Governor of Adamawa State. How? Thank you very much. How?
The announcement came as a rude shock to the stakeholders and other officials assigned to the coalition center and across the state.
No one will tell us what is right so long as what he is saying is not right. And we will not take it. No matter how strong that person is, no matter how mighty he thinks he is, we will reduce him to his level of nothingness. Adamawa State is a peaceful state. We are a peaceful people. But we must never ever be taken for granted. We must never ever be taken for granted. Today, I weep for what is right. I weep for the people of Adamawa State that took the pain to go and exercise their franchise as lawfully provided by law, as guaranteed by the ground norm of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But residents have mixed reactions to the development.
So, Alhamdulillah, first I will say thanks be to Almighty Allah. So I appreciate what Allah has given us, what we are looking for since Aisha to Binani is our choice, is Adamawa's choice. I appreciate what God makes to us in Adamawa State today. I'm really happy I enjoyed this very day. Peacefully, successfully, because what we want our colleagues or supporters to do, just to celebrate it successfully in a good manner, so that no one will be harmed, no one will, in short, to celebrate it in a good manner.
I don't feel anything, but we are just thank God. Between Aisha to Ahmed Abdul Binani and Ahmed Umaru Finteri, anyone who get in these two people, no problem about them. But all of them, they are people, they are correct people. Who will get any one of them is good for us. So the thing that would advise the people of other state or youth of themselves, don't ever do anything. Just pray for Binani. Make the government to be good for us, because as they good to the Finteri, our governor. See back.
We feel very happy, seriously, because she is the only leader as a woman or as a female leader that she is doing something that is benefiting almost all the citizens of Adamawa State, because all the men leaders that we are doing, they are not doing even 50% of what she has done.
Once again, residents of Adamawa State have to wait to know who will emerge as the next governor of the state. For now, INEC has suspended the collation of results and has summoned Daybreak, the returning officer, and others involved to Abuja to unravel what went down. Salis Lewan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Now, some concerned citizens in Benue are worried about the dwindling percentage of women voted into positions after the general elections. They say Nigeria must deliberately remove barriers that deter political inclusion and discourage women from participating in the electoral process. Jimmy Azandi reports.
The Benue situation is worrisome, as there are only 4 women that were elected in the just concluded general polls. 2 of the women are in the State Assembly, while 2 are in the National Assembly. This Makurdi-based legal practitioner and gender advocate says Nigeria is signatory to certain international conventions and protocols on women inclusion, but male politicians have failed to implement these agreements.
Nigeria, being a member of the United Nations, is also aware of the UN Women Resolution 1325, which talks about issues of women inclusion, called WPS, Women, Peace and Security. Now, other countries have gone ahead to, as a matter of fact, legislate or put in place legal framework that will demystify all forms of barriers against women. And I think That is what we need as a country.
Residents called on the women folk to do more in the area of economic empowerment. This, they believe, will remove certain impositions as well as discrimination against the female gender in Nigeria.
Most times in Africa, you get to see we have this thinking that men are up there and women are like this. It's a cultural problem, it's a traditional problem. We should look out for the next generation. We should try to socialize our children, both men, both the boys and the girls. To start training the next generation to understand that men and women enjoy the same. There should be equity. There should be equity between men and women.
The land now, I believe that it will help in the long way in curtailing some of these excesses exhibited by the misogynists.
The call is also extended to lawmakers in the 10th National Assembly to turn out legislations for women inclusion and participation.
The National Assembly, you will know, 3 out of 5 gender bills, which is quite disturbing. And as a state, Benue in particular, I will call on the 10th State House of Assembly to, as a matter of fact, consider a specific legislation that will give a certain portion of seats, both in the National Assembly or in the State House of Assembly or in the executive arms of government, specifically to women.
Despite the sensitization on women inclusion over the years, the situation in Benue State shows that gender inequality is far from over in the polity.
Operatives of the Rivers Police Command have busted a child trafficking gang operating in the state and neighboring states. Now, the gang's base was located in Ubima community of Ikwere local government area of the state, from where its tentacles spread to its environs and to across the neighboring states. The report.
A complaint from Mrs. Precious Friday of Ubima community about a missing child started the event that led to the uncovering of the gang. This led to the arrest of Mercy Ehida, who visited complaints home shortly before the disappearance of the child. The public relations officer of Rivers State Police Command, SP Grace Erinji Koko, said Ehida confessed that she stole the child and 2 other children along with an accomplice she identified as Amaka Uhuize between February 16th and March 2023. The confession led the investigators to Delta State, where Chialuka Ehinacho and her husband Chukuma were also arrested.
Based on a follow-up case on this child trafficking, the police arrested 4 suspects, which they confessed to the crime, that they are the syndicate that has been kidnapping children along Omawa in Ikwere local government area of the state. And through the follow-up case, we've been able to rescue 2 of the children which they abducted. And they also said that each of the child they used to buy from their adopters 500,000, 400,000, 350, and the list was 180, respectfully. That's the amount they've been buying from their adopters.
Some of the suspects and parents of the kidnapped victim spoke to newsmen.
The person I called that took them to the orphanage, they paid 500,000. The first one 500, the second one 650, the third one 500.
3 children. First one, then first of all give me 150,000. Then now later send 30,000 for me. Then second one, then give me 350,000. This third one, then give me 100,000. Then now send the remaining one for her sister account, 400, and no give me.
We get called that they get one woman with arrest in LL. So the woman, they confessed that she said that he's the one kidnapped my daughter. So after every we go there, ask the woman say that he's the one who come take away my daughter. So that he will bring back my daughter, that my daughter is alive. He will carry those children come back. And that this one here is my daughter. So God thank you that the police people, they are trying.
So I was on the farm. Somebody called me that my baby has been missing. So when I get to the house, I find out that my baby is no longer at the house. So I have to report to the police that my baby is missing. So since then, I've been looking for my baby till today. I've not seen him. The police, they are trying their best and they are doing well. And they gave me assurance they are going to find my baby.
The police public relations officer said some of the rescued children have been reunited with their parents, but sadly efforts were ongoing to recover 2-year-old male child, Jasper Friday, who was sold at Asaba. She therefore pleaded with members of the public to furnish the police with information that could lead to the child's rescue.
Well, that's it for the headlines and, of course, the reports for this hour. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll take a look at the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us.
That's good. It's good to see you.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
necessarily tribal or regional.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak this morning. It's now time for the newspaper review, and we will be reeling out headlines, major stories from the front page of the national dailies this morning. We'll begin with Daily Trust today, and we have the lead story here that says INEC holds emergency meeting today over Adamawa. We have writers that says results coalition move to Abuja, prosecute REC says Yadudu, electoral body decries attack on commissioners, Atiku, CDD, Yaga, others react, and you can find details of that story on page 4 from the top of the page there. Senate, APC secures 59 seats, PDP 36, LP 8, NNPP 2, SDP 2. Details of that on page 13. On subsidy palliative, federal government to pay 5,000 to 10 million households for 6 months. And this story you can actually find on page 23. APC's Idris wins Kebbi governorship election on page 14. And there is a pictorial there of Sudanese greet soldiers loyal to Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan in the Red Sea city of Port Sudan yesterday. And moving on from that particular pictorial, oral cancers kill 764 Nigerians annually, says federal government. Many killed in fresh attack on Zangon Kataf. And Buhari, Chadian leader, expressed concern over Sudan crisis, and these are some of the stories on Daily Trust newspaper.
Next paper we're looking at is the Punch newspaper, and it carries this major story on the front page. Binani declaration, Adamawa REC under fire, faces INEC panel today. And it comes with riders here that says APC, PDP clash, REC faces 36 months imprisonment. INEC annuls Binani's declaration as governor-elect, says REC usurps returning officers' power. Atiku Fintri PDP kick, Adamawa APC hails Binani as supporters jubilate. Moving towards the bottom of the front page there, Lagos, Ondo, Bayelsa lead states in rising inflation. And flood sweeps 4-year-old boy away in Lagos. Gunmen abduct Ogun traffic official on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And at the very top of the front page there, aviation unions to ground flights, airports today. And Nigeria's 96% revenue used to service debt in 2022, and that is according to the World Bank. And finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Buhari meets governors, EFCC chair, others in Saudi Arabia. Details of that story can be found on page 18. These are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Investors lose 601 billion naira in 4 days. Naira falls amid pressure. And we also have Chidi Amuta got it all wrong on Obi, says Alake. UBA raised profit to 61.4 billion naira in first quarter. Jaiz Bank grows profit by 68.5%. Now below the name mask there, we have 3.4 billion naira debt. Ex-council chairman, councillors reject Makinde's payment plan. The lead story here says drama suspends uproar over REC's declaration of Binani. And we have riders that says INEC rejects Adamawa REC's action to decide governor-elect tomorrow. PDP, Atiku, others cry foul. We also have APC controls Senate with 59 seats, PDP 36, Labour Party 8, NNPP, SDP 2 each, APGA, YPP 1 each. We also have Idris is Kebbi governor-elect. And on the footnotes there, 22 feared killed, houses razed in fresh attack on southern Kaduna community. These are some of the stories on the Nation.
Next, we'll take a look at the Guardian newspaper, and the major story reads, near bankrupt states, unviable projects await 18 new governors. And that story can be found on page 6. The breakdown of that can be found on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Aviation workers begin warning strikes today over COS and welfare. Details of that can be found on page 7. Intrigues as Otedola takes strategic position in blue chip assets, and that is on the business page, which is page 15. Drama as INEC disowns REC, voids Binani's declaration, that is on page 6 of the Guardian. And freedom of expression, a thin line between hate speech, sedition and treason. You can find that on page 4. And at the very bottom of the page there, amid postponement calls, MPC insists on May 3 census. And you can find that story on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Guardian this morning.
All right, up next is Vanguard newspaper, and we have the lead story still on Adamawa polls, Gubar poll, drama as the REC fights RO over declaration of Binani as winner. We have riders. INEC nullifies Binani's declaration as a governor-elect by Adamawa REC. Adamawa's REC's actions provocative. Buhari should intervene, says Finteri. Finteri 1, PDP insists, dismisses purported declaration of APC candidate, demands arrest of REC. There's a plot to undermine democracy, provoke violence in Adamawa, says Atiku. We also have on the rising unemployment, over 81,000 pension contributors lose jobs in 2 years. Riders here says withdraw 47 billion from pension fund to cushion impact. Economic shocks, Jakpa syndrome, fueling job losses, says pension operators. And we also have on fuel subsidy, IMF reluctant to interfere with Nigeria's decision. And we have more on the top of the page there. Borrowing, OPS rejects IMF's tax increase call, says prescription will kill businesses, worsen poverty. Insists Nigeria doesn't need $800 million loan for subsidy removal palliatives. We also have Labour Party crisis, NLC seeks interpretation of 2 court orders. More stories on Vanguard, supplementary polls, how Tambuwal Wamako won Senate seats in Sokoto, 33 feared, scored, injured as bandits attack Zangon Kataf. We also have Osimhen in sports, makes U-turn, insists he's happy at Napoli. The Olu of Warri decorates Oma Oyewoma as a new Ologbotere. We also have UBA's profit rises 38.2% to 61.4 billion naira in first quarter 2023.
Next newspaper we're looking at is the Nigerian Tribune, and in keeping what we have seen so far, the major story reads INEC voids announcement of Binani, PDP demands arrest of Adamawa REC. And Riders says his actions provocative, according to Finteri. Yaga CDD condemns REC's action, says it undermines Electoral Act and other laws. Now, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, tax hike will bring hardship to individuals, businesses, that is according to NECA. And court deposes first-class traditional ruler in Ondo 5 years after installation. Moving towards the top of the front page there, below the nameplate, Melaye wins Kogi PDP governorship primary. APC's Idris wins Kebbi governorship election. And still talking politics, Tambuwal clinches Sokoto South senatorial seat. Now to matters of security, where at the very top of the front page, bandits kill 22 in fresh attack in southern Kaduna. And irate youth kill 1, set 64 houses ablaze in Bauchi. And NDLEA arrests Lekki businessman over illicit drugs from US, intercepts drug consignment in winter jackets, body lotion at Lagos airport. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at Leadership newspaper. We have at the top of the page there, bandits kill 30 race houses in southern Kaduna. We also have more stories. Publish your assets now, Serap tells PMB of Oshibajo. The lead story talks about Adamawa governorship elections. And then we also have more stories. INEC false report on Rivers presidential results, says it's prejudicial. We also have NECA disagrees with IMF over call for increased taxes. These are some of the stories on Leadership newspaper.
All right, the next paper we're looking at is the national economy, and this is the major story on the front page. Rising interest rates, Nigerian banks may consider cross-border expansion. That is the major story on the front page of the Nigerian economy. And going towards the bottom of the front page, they are utilizing unclaimed funds in dormant accounts. And that is a story that can be found on page 25. How Nigeria can build farmers' resilience to disaster shocks. And at the very bottom of the front page, there's Silicon Valley Bank, why regulators must prioritize risk management. That is according to the NDIC. Now, these are the stories on the front page of the national economy.
All right, let's take a look at Business Day next. Nigerian politicians, that's the big story, struggle to tame social media generation. We also have more stories beside it. Writers that says how AI deepfakes are deployed to shape political outcomes. And here are ways AI can benefit Nigerian politicians. Now we also have corporate debt jumps 133% as Nigerian firms battle cash crunch. Naira gains as election dollars circulate. We also have federal government, World Bank arm in talks over infrastructure financing, and Idris wins Kebbi election, crisis rocks Adamawa. And these are some of the stories on Business Day newspaper. All right, so with that, we have come to the end of, reading out some of these stories from the front page of the national dailies. And we already have our guest in the studio with us to analyze some of this story. Mukhtar Suleiman, his public affairs analyst. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's another Monday morning.
Yes, indeed. And one of the stories, I know it's actually funny to you right about now, and is on every headline of the newspaper, is the Adamawa election. And nobody's even talking about Kebbi, nobody's talking about other states' supplementary elections, but Adamawa State, what is actually going on?
I tried so hard to stay away from the elections this weekend. Honestly, genuinely, I didn't want to hear anything about it. So practically what I did, I didn't even go to the Situation Room. I stayed at home. I watched Prime Video, slept, and did whatever it is I needed to do over the weekend. But then I started getting calls yesterday morning, or early afternoon. How far is this true? Did Binani win? Because a lot of people actually rely on me to get information. And I was like, okay, I don't know how that's possible, because if we look at before the supplementary elections, Fintiri was leading by 30,000 votes, but let me confirm. So I picked my phone and I saw messages from other people that from the Situation Room, like, oh, this is what happened. I was shocked. Now, this is a gross violation of the law in all ramifications. And it's really, really sickening that something like that could happen within the commission. The essence of, or for me, one of the bedrocks of why the supplementary elections were very pertinent is because we have suffered a great mistrust with the commission after the presidential election on February 25th, and then that of March 18th, there's the gubernatorial elections. So this was more or less like a way for the commission to retrace its steps and see how they can bring some sanity to the polity. But for that to happen right under the commission's watch is quite appalling, extremely appalling. I would remember that the INEC chairman has actually said severally that there is a rigorous way of ensuring that INEC staff are vetted, trained and retrained, and there is this way of enshrining the concept or the tenets of integrity and ethics in their work. But for that not to have, we've not seen that. So yesterday was somewhat of a shocker. Now, to go beyond that even is to even see that, okay, this guy came out, whoever he is, the rec, came out without the result sheet, nothing, just utter a statement, declaration of some sort, and left. And Aisha Binani came out to give an acceptance speech. It was too much of a drama yesterday to actually watch. It's really, really, it's sad that that's the situation that we found ourselves in the country. And we're hoping that that swift action that they took is something that actually have to also commend. The fact that immediately they put out a statement to
a disclaimer.
As a disclaimer to say this is not from the commission, this is a singular action by one person, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, and these people have been invited to Abuja to see how this can actually be sorted. So we're looking forward to how that will turn out.
Well, despite the disclaimer, or in spite of the disclaimer, a lot of people actually of the opinion that the damage has already been done to INEC. But how much damage has this done to INEC's reputation? You actually talked about what happened in the general elections and after that, and how people were really not happy with what INEC did, and this was an opportunity for them to redeem themselves. How much damage has this done to their reputation?
I do not envy the next INEC chairman. I feel really bad for whoever he or she would be, because it's going to do, the person would have to do a lot of damage control and reputational repair when they get into office. More time for that than even the next 2027 general elections. It is pathetic. It is sad that that's the situation that we're in. But I genuinely do not envy them. INEC has really dented itself. The current commission under the leadership of Professor Mahmoud, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, ran one of the best preparatory campaigns of an election. Everybody was impressed up until the election started. When the election started, it was downhill from there. It has really been pathetic. It's like gravity happened, and everything that they've set in place to work, we just want to know where it all went wrong, because this is not what we expected. As someone who works in the development space, one of the things I think I come to find is that this is one of the most easily accessible INEC chairman we've had in a while. He was very open to the civil societies. He was willing to work. He collaborated. But things just changed. This was not what we planned. So this was not what he planned. Let me put it that way. Even. We just don't know where it went wrong. We're hoping that a lot of probing is going to go into this, just to ensure that those people who are found wanting as to how things got so deplorable can be brought to book.
But do you also think that coming to Abuja is actually a solution? Because like Ibrahim actually said, the damage has already been done. A lot of people out there, even journalists yesterday, were posting that, she was the winner and everything. So the damage has already been done. Do you think there would be a solution then coming to Abuja? What happens if there's none?
I think there's no finality to anything. So when something bad happens, there's always a way to come back from it. So I think that's what somewhat of what the commission is currently doing. Coming to Abuja is actually nice because it's a neutral ground. So bring everybody away from their strongholds and wherever it is that they control and their comfort zones, and bring them to a neutral ground where they can have decent conversation and find out what. First things first, I'm still in shock as to how that thing, because I'm trying to make sense of it. It's I think I said this last week. It's senseless corruption. When you do something so pathetic, where were you thinking from? Because it is so clear that this was not your prerogative. Even if, let's even go beyond this was not your prerogative. I expect you to be smarter in house. Maybe you come with a result and say this party won this, but you cannot just up and just go to the center and just say ABC candidate has won by virtue of winning the most votes. Okay, how many votes did the person win? What's the spread? Nothing. You just came in and uttered the declaration and left. It doesn't make sense.
Without any worries.
That doesn't make sense. But I think another thing that we need to address is the mob action that happened afterwards, because a different professor who looks like Professor Udu was attacked, and that's something that we actually need to actually decry. However bad, however terrible the action of somebody is, whether it's a government actor, whether it's a state or a non-state actor, there are legal means of seeking redress. The courts are there. The commission is already taking steps that we applaud. People should not take laws into their own hands. I know that you are angry. Everybody is angry about what happened, but you should not go out and think that you cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. Then if everybody does that, then the country will be in chaos. It will be in mayhem. And that's really sad and pathetic. I think it's just right that we put that out there.
All right, well, let's move slightly away from that because we can talk about this all day. Actually, we have been talking about it since yesterday and all day as well. Let me talk about something that it's quite dear to your heart. Let's talk about subsidy.
Oh yes.
Let's talk about subsidy and the palliatives the federal government says now is going to give out. So we're seeing on the front page of the Daily Trust that the federal government is to pay 5,000 naira to 10 million households for 6 months. Because the last time we talked about this, we were talking about how they were going to exactly how they were actually going to do that, and so now they've shown you their plan. They want to give $5,000 to 10 million households for 6 months.
That's them working on the assumption that each household has 5 people inside. So covers for the 50 million. Covers for the 50 million.
Exactly.
That's a very smart logic. That's very, you see, this administration have never ceased to amaze me with how they roll out absurd policies and then they make it sound so smart. Alan Smith once said, just because someone said something so smart in fancy man language does not mean that it's not stupid. And that's the situation we find ourselves today. I do not think Nigeria has had a more terrible economic team than we've had in the last 8 years. And it's one of the things that we're actually hoping that Tinubu can actually seek to correct. From the CBN governor down to the finance minister, it has really been a very bad decisions that they've made throughout the entire tenure. So I don't know how the whole system is going to correct itself eventually, because the damage, I don't know how much of it, I can't even see. I'm an ordinary citizen, I'm not even an economic specialist, and I know for a fact that the damage that these guys have created is so serious and so severe that it will take a lot to actually.
So you're saying the 5K now to 10 million households in
it doesn't make sense.
Like
Still doesn't make sense.
5K a month.
That still doesn't make sense. Sort what? Sort what exactly? Do you know how a liter of fuel is 195?
And after subsidy removal, it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. They're looking at an average of at least 500 naira. Because some people are arguing 400 to 700. So let's put it at an average of 500 naira. That's the, so that means you buy 10 liters.
10 liters, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
just to do what exactly?
Yeah, maybe they start black market business.
You know, supporting SMEs.
Even the Nigerians are actually saying that, you know, there's no need for any subsidy palliative.
Yes, there isn't. I strongly believe that there isn't. You can't address issues by addressing effects and not causes. I've said this like 1 million times. That's why he said subsidy is so dear to my heart. But I've said it like 1 million times. The easiest way to sort this problem is ensure that there's stable power in the country. People should not have to pay premium price for fuel to generate primary source of power. I'm not going to go buy fuel at 500 naira to fuel my gen. It doesn't make sense, because the ripple effect of removal of fuel subsidy and the increase of fuel is that production costs will go up. If production costs go up, purchase will also go up. And purchasing power is so low in this country right now, when you have over 100 million or 160 million people living in multidimensional poverty. I am broke. Even me myself.
Like if a lot of businesses would actually shut down.
A lot of businesses will have to shut because production will go up so significantly. Do you know? This is the Daily Trust office complex. You can, if you speak to your procurement team, you can imagine how much you guys consume in terms of fuel and diesel at the end of the month. It is a lot of money.
I think over the weekend, I actually saw a report that says, is it 20 million small businesses actually shut down due to the fuel issue?
It is too much. It's, I don't know. Like I don't know how they think. Honestly, sometimes they do something really dope, and then you're like, okay, this is really good. And then they do something so absurd that covers what they did, that makes it so useless all of a sudden. Because I still think that the EPSRA is actually a very good act of parliament. That's what the president actually signed into that's the new Electricity Power Sector Reform Act. But to come back and say this is a way to caution the effect of, it is really, really sad. And if you look at it, even nobody can actually say for sure how much fuel will be after subsidy removal, because there's so many variables you have to put into consideration. There's because we still do international trade in dollar exchange. There will still be the idea of how much is a dollar to a naira. There will be the import cost. There's so many things you have to put into consideration before you can actually decide on how much it will become.
So basically, it's just speculation now that people are...
All of it is speculation, and one of the easiest ways to do it, maybe, is to transfer the power to the hands of, to open a free market of trade of import. So if you meet basic requirements as set by maybe NNPC, then you can actually import fuel as well. But why are we even importing in the first place? That's a whole different conversation. But if that happens, maybe competition can drive down the price. But then again, there's a problem with that, because then the private sectors can create a cabal system that allows for uniform pricing, and then they will be the ones controlling price.
Yeah, but that's
the same thing with what the marketers are doing.
That's the argument to and for the deregulation of the whole situation.
Deregulation of the whole system.
Yeah.
So there's so many issues so many things to consider, so many things we have to look at. And I don't know if the government doesn't, there's a way you speak from a position of privilege. I think that's what's wrong with the government currently. You speak from a position of privilege that you're so detached from the reality of every other person that this may affect negatively. The finance minister is not going to, there will never be a time till she dies that she will have to stand in queue for fuel. Same thing goes for the president, same thing goes for the CBN governor. All of these things come to them so easily. So they feel like they've been so detached from the reality of how Nigerians suffer for these things that they don't understand what it means. So they need to make smarter decisions, honestly.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Vanguard's big story here that talks about the rising unemployment and how over 81,000 pension contributors actually lost their jobs in 2 years.
I saw that, and you can sort of imagine what that means for the pension system, because these monies are usually rotated, invested, and then returns and gains comes back. And what they mean by 1,000 pension contributors is that now salary earners have lost their jobs, so there's nobody remitting money in those accounts anymore. It's really, really... And another thing we need to actually look at is how many organizations are actually following that statutory regulation of pension remission. Because I got to find that a lot of organizations don't do that, and that's something we have to look into. Because it's especially for staff, and I will say this to every staff out there: if you work somewhere, please try as much as possible to ensure that your organization is remitting your tax and also remitting your pension money. This is a very, very important thing for each Nigerian to have. But it's 1,000 people is a lot, because the unemployment rate is actually going so far up, and beyond unemployment there's underemployment as well. I know people who still receive 40,000 naira monthly, and this is before tax, and they will still be taxed from those monies. I know people who still receive like under 100k, and owing to the fact of how inflation has actually taken its toll on the economy, and how there's a rising price and cost of living, standard of living is dropping so significantly. It's why I still say that this is one of the worst economic things that we've had in this country, and I hope that the president-elect, when he gets into office, can actually do something to fix it.
We're talking about economic decisions and, of course, their consequences. There's been a standoff now between aviation unions and of course, the government, and now they're threatening to shut down airports, and that's supposed to start today. And what's your take on the whole back and forth?
This repartee between the aviation workers and Hadi Sirika has been a long battle that has been coming for a very long time, and I'm hoping that it's something that can be a thing of the past. I remember that the last time that this happened, a friend of mine was stranded in Ethiopia with his family, his son who is under 5, and his daughter as well, with him and his wife. We need to do something. We need to do better. It's so funny how almost every aspect of the government is deteriorating at a very fast pace, especially in the last 2 years. If you've noticed, between 2021 and now, it has been worse. Before now, they had a lot of things to say, things were getting better in the polity. But between 2021 and now, it's been really, really bad. And we need to actually do better than what we need. Because then, I remember the time they had to sign in this, was it a law or an act that they did some time ago that actually created a lot of issues. And now they're still talking about their packages that have not been given to them. And the airport is generating more money now, if I'm not mistaken. The only money was now it's taxing people to park.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that every time you pay at the toll gates to get in. You pay under 500 naira per hour to park at the airport. If you spend another additional 1 minute to that, you pay another additional 200 naira. It's a lot of money. So that means then there's the fan taxi. That's thing that I feel like is a robbery system. I think that's a robbery system because a government-owned business cannot be charging more than a private-owned business.
Exactly.
You use taxpayers' money to set up a business, and then you're charging more than private players.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. Government should have no business in business. But what's happening really with the NCA is something that needs to be checked. This honest conversation should be had. But then again, I feel like most of the state actors currently in this government are just looking to leave very soon. They don't have any interest in doing anything significant. So except for those who are looking for more appointments or reappointments of their current positions. So I don't know how they will sort this out, but Hadisvik has already done a very good job in the aviation space. If we look at it critically, some airlines are actually falling short of so many issues that they are having. Airway again, quite recently, almost crashed, which is a problem because they were suspended before. What were the metrics that was used before license was issued back to them again to keep flying? So many things that needs to be done really to brush up that system, from the staffing to the infrastructure and on and on.
All right, well, while we're still on the issue of aviation, has absolutely nothing to do with the headlines. I just want to get your take on this Nigeria Air. They said it's going to start by May, before May.
Oh, they've given a new date again?
Yeah, I think I heard something somewhere.
Oh, well, they said April last year. Before that, they said January the previous year.
Yes.
And that's when they spent over 100 million for logo.
Exactly.
That weirdly it's I don't know what to call that thing anymore. For me, it's beginning to look like a Ponzi scheme. Like a way of just, we're going to do it. Then they will put in money and then they will mop out the money. I'm like, there's a problem. It needs to change, because I think the last time the part of the issue was the private actors were really angry at the fact that they were trying to get Ethiopian Air to manage it, and that became a problem for them. I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. It's so funny how we keep having these brilliant ideas as to things that we need to do, and then we keep falling short of them. Because one thing about a national airline carrier is that it really helps the Nigerian system. I'll give you an example. I was speaking to someone. I was at the World Youth Forum in 2019. The World Youth Forum 2019. This is a forum that holds in Egypt, with over 8,000 people from across the globe coming for free, 100% funded. This is the largest gathering of people of free conference. So I was talking to one of the organizers, somebody in the organizing team. Why don't you guys think is a lot of money to spend? And she was telling me, her name is Dr. Sarah. Dr. Sarah said, we know what we're doing in Egypt. She said, out of the 8,000 people selected to come for this conference, on an average, they've got to find, because the conference started in 2016, I think, that they've got to find that only about 3,000 people actually actively participate in the conference. So they found all 8,000 people to come. They know that the bottleneck to people for people to travel is transport and accommodation. So they found these 8,000 people to come. They might not participate in the conference. The remaining 5,000 will go do sightseeing. They'll spend money in the economy. So the economy will grow. So for them, the conference is good. They sit down there, they have decent, honest conversations on how to amplify voices and whatnot. But then there's economic activity going on so rapidly. Egypt Air is owned by the government, so they fly everybody for free. Only very few countries where Egypt Air doesn't go to, then they will have to pay for flights. The hotels, they waive tax for them, so they house everybody for free. So the government is really not spending a lot, but they are getting economic activity. That's giving them money.
So it's a win-win for them.
It's a win-win for them. So we come up with these amazing ideas sometimes in this country, and then we just piss on it, for lack of better terminology.
All right. Really sad. Oh, well, I actually wish we could continue this particular segment. Quite an interesting one, but sadly we have to wrap up at this moment. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Suleiman, for joining us to analyze some of these stories this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
We appreciate it. All right, so with that, we'll take a break, and when we come back at the top of the hour, the show continues. Stick around.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
That's great. That's good to see.
Good morning and welcome to Trust TV's Daybreak, reaching you from the nation's capital. It's top of the hour, 8 a.m. and I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
I'm Dasha and Husseina Usman, and thank you so much for staying with us.
All right, now let's take a look at the headlines for this hour. Adamawa CDD, Yaga Africa, want action against REC and others.
32-year-old unionist unseats fourth-term rep in Sokoto.
And Dino Melaya clinches PDP Goba ticket in Kogi.
Now let's take a look at the details. The Center for Democracy and Development and the Yaga Africa have condemned Sunday morning declaration of Senator Aisha Dahiru, also known as Binani, as winner of the Adamawa state governorship election. This is contained in separate statements on the verified Twitter handles of the two organizations. The resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State, Professor Yusuf Hudu Ari, had declared Binani as winner of the election under controversial circumstances. This is as the state's coalition officer, Professor Mohammed Mele, whose responsibility is to announce the results and declare winner, was nowhere to be found. The Center for Democracy and Development called on INEC to sanction all erring officials who carried out this illegal announcement and ensure that results are publicly available to all citizens. The Yaga Africa, on its part, noted that declaration of results by the INEC's REC for Adamawa State is in violation of Section 64 and 65 Electoral Act of 2022 and part of INEC guidelines, which vests the power to declare results solely on a returning officer appointed by INEC.
Meanwhile, a 32-year-old student unionist, Bashir Usman Gorau, has defeated Musa Sadikin Adar, incumbent member representing Gada Gorenyo Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Bashir Gorau, who contested under the platform of the People's Democratic Party, is the immediate past Commissioner of Youth and Sports in Sokoto State. He polled 29,679 votes to defeat his opponent of the All Progressives Congress, who scored 25,549 votes.
All right, Senator Dino Melaye has emerged the People's Democratic Party candidate, according to Senator Ahmed Makarfi, the chairman of the PDP Primary Election Committee, who announced the results. He said Senator Melaye got 313 votes to clinch the ticket, and he also disclosed that Ilona Idoko Kingsley scored 124 votes. Usman Muhammad Kabiru got 121 votes, and Abayomi Sunday Awoni, a former deputy governor, pulled 77 votes. The party primary election was held at Kafaz Hall Event Center in Lokoja amid tight security. Engineer Wada Musa secured 56 votes. Ojaja Gideon Enama got 5 votes, and Olufemi Olarenwaju scored 2 votes. Senator Makarfi declared that 6 votes were recorded void, and our correspondent reports that one Abdullahi Haruna withdrew from the race before voting commenced.
All right, now time for us to take a look at some news reports on this hour. Adamawa State remains in a state of uneasy calm following the intrigues surrounding the supplementary elections conducted in the state on Saturday. Now, contrary to protocol, State President Electoral Commissioner Barrister Hudu Yunusa had announced Aisha Binani of the All Progressives Congress as the winner of the polls. Now, Silas Lawan captures the mood in the state following the drama at the State Coalition Center. His report.
Election processes are backed by a constitution and guidelines of the electoral law. There are stipulated procedures from voting, collation of results, and subsequent declaration of winners. However, this was not the case with Adamawa State Governorship Supplementary Election, as protocols were breached and the Constitution overridden.
The highest vote.
No.
No.
How? As elected governor of Adamawa State.
How?
Thank you very much.
How?
The announcement came as a rude shock to the stakeholders and other officials assigned to the coalition center and across the state.
No one will tell us what is right so long as what he is saying is not right. And we will not take it. No matter how strong that person is, no matter how mighty he thinks he is, we will reduce him to his level of nothingness. Adamawa State is a peaceful state. We are a peaceful people, but we must never ever be taken for granted. We must never ever be taken for granted. Today, I weep for what is right. I weep for the people of Adamawa State that took the pain to go and exercise their franchise as lawfully provided by law, as guaranteed by the ground norm of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
But residents have mixed reactions to the development.
Oh, Alhamdulillah, first I will say thanks be to Almighty Allah. So I appreciate what Allah has given us, what we are looking for since Aisha to Binani is our choice, it's Adamawa's choice. I appreciate what God makes to us in Adamawa State today. I'm really happy I enjoyed this very day. Peacefully, successfully, because what we want our colleagues or supporters to do, just to celebrate it successfully in a good manner, so that no one will be harmed, no one will, in short, to celebrate it in a good manner.
I don't feel anything, but we are just thank God. Between Aisha to Daybreak Binani and Ahmadu Umaru Finteri, anyone who get in these two people, no problem about them. But all of them, they are people, they are correct people. Who will get any one of them is good for us. So the thing that would advise the people of other state or youth of them say, don't ever do anything. Just pray for Binani. Make the government to be good for us, because as they good to the Finteri, our governor. See the back.
I feel very happy, seriously, because she is the only leader as a woman or as a female leader that she is doing something that is benefiting almost all the citizens of Adamawa State, because all the men leaders that we are doing, they are not doing even 50% of what she has done.
Once again, residents of Adamawa State have to wait to know who will emerge as the next governor of the state. For now, INEC has suspended the collation of results and has summoned Daybreak, the returning officer, and others involved to Abuja to unravel what went down. Salis Lewan, Trust TV News, Yola.
Some concerned citizens of Benue State are worried about the dwindling percentage of women voted into positions after the 2023 elections. Now, they say Nigeria must deliberately remove barriers that deter political inclusion and discourage women from participating in the electoral process. Jimmy Adzande reports.
The Benue situation is worrisome, as there are only 4 women that were elected in the just concluded general polls. 2 of the women are in the State Assembly, while 2 are in the National Assembly. This Makurdi-based legal practitioner and gender advocate says Nigeria is signatory to certain international conventions and protocols on women inclusion, but male politicians have failed to implement these agreements.
Nigeria, being a member of the United Nations, is also aware of the UN Women Resolution 1325, which talks about issues of women inclusion, called the WPS, Women, Peace and Security. Now, other countries have gone ahead to, as a matter of fact, legislate or put in place legal framework that would demystify all forms of barriers against women. And I think that is what we need as a country.
Residents call on the women folk to do more in the area of economic empowerment. This, they believe, will remove certain impositions as well as discrimination against the female gender in Nigeria.
Most times in Africa, you get to see we have this thinking that men are up there and women are like this. It's a cultural problem, it's a traditional problem. we should look out for the next generation. We should try to socialize our children, both men, both the boys and the girls. To start training the next generation to understand that men and women enjoy the same. There should be equity. There should be equity between men and women.
The land now, I believe that it will help in the long way in curtailing some of these excesses exhibited by misogynists.
The call is also extended to lawmakers in the 10th National Assembly to turn out legislations for women inclusion and participation.
The National Assembly, you will know, 3 out of 5 gender bills, which is quite disturbing. And as a state, Benue in particular, I will call on the 10th State House of Assembly to, as a matter of fact, consider a specific legislation that will give a certain portion of seats, both in the National Assembly or in the State House of Assembly or in the executive arms of government, specifically to women.
Despite the sensitization on women inclusion over the years, the situation in Benue State shows that gender inequality is far from over in the polity.
Now, operatives of the River State Police Command have busted a child trafficking gang operating in the state and neighboring areas. The gang's base is located in Ubima community of Ikwere local government area of the state, from where its tentacles spread to neighboring states as well. The report.
A complaint from Mrs. Precious Friday of Ubima community about a missing child started the event that led to the uncovering of the gang. This led to the arrest of Mercy Ehida, who visited complaints home shortly before the disappearance of the child. The public relations officer of River State Police Command, SP Grace Erinji Koko, said Ehida confessed that she stole the child and 2 other children along with an accomplice she identified as Amaka Uhuize between February 16th and March 2023. The confession led the investigators to Delta State, where Chialuka Ehinacho and her husband Chukuma were also arrested.
Based on a follow-up case on this child trafficking, the police arrested 4 suspects, which they confessed to the crime, that they are the syndicate that has been kidnapping children along Omawa in Ikwere local government area of the state. And through the follow-up case, we've been able to rescue 2 of the children which they abducted. And they also said that each of the child they used to buy from their adopters 500,000, 400,000, 350, and the list was 180, respectfully. That's the amount they've been buying from their adopters.
Some of the suspects and parents of the kidnapped victim spoke to newsmen.
The person I called that took them to the orphanage, they paid 500,000. The first one 500, the second one 650, the third one 500.
3 children. First one, then first of all give me 150,000. Then now later send 30,000 for me. Then second one, then give me 350,000. This third one, then give me 100,000. Then now send the remaining one for her sister account, 400, and no give me.
We get called that they get one woman with arrest in LL. So the woman, they confessed that she said that he's the one kidnapped my daughter. So after every we go there, ask the woman say that he's the one who come take away my daughter. So that he will bring back my daughter, that my daughter is alive. He will carry those children come back. And that this one here is my daughter. So God thank you that the police people, they are trying.
So I was on the farm. Somebody called me that my baby has been missing. So when I get to the house, I find out that my baby is no longer at the house. So I have to report to the police that my baby is missing. So since then, I've been looking for my baby till today. I've not seen him. The police, they are trying their best and they are doing well. And they gave me assurance they are going to find my baby.
The police public relations officer said some of the rescued children have been reunited with their parents. But sadly, efforts were ongoing to recover 2-year-old male child, Jasper Friday, who was sold at Asaba. She therefore pleaded with members of the public to furnish the police with information that could.
All right, with this, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on to our discussion. Stick around.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Inherited a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
All right, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak this morning. Now let's take a look at our first discussion. The supplementary elections took place during the weekend in Adamawa State and other states as well to enable the electorates choose their next governor and some parts of the country. Now, where eligible voters elected 24 members of the House of Representatives and 8 senators. Now, this morning, on Daybreak, we will be analyzing the supplementary elections with Jide Ojo, and Mr. Ojo is a political scientist, a columnist, an author, and also a public affairs commentator. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Mr.
My
Jide.
pleasure. Good morning. Happy New Week,
Happy New Week to you too as well.
Yeah.
All right, so taking a look at the supplementary elections that happened during the weekend, in your opinion, how would you describe it? Especially in Adamawa State.
Adamawa is the sore point, but unfortunately, well, Adamawa scenario leaves a sore taste in the mouth. But again, let's not focus only on that, because elections that were held were in over 12 states. Adamawa just happened to be a sore point. I mean, we have elections in Sokoto. The 3 senatorial election in Sokoto was inconclusive, and nothing untoward happened. We have Kebbi, where similar governorship election was declared inconclusive ab initio. It was concluded there were no issues. We have in Oyo State, we have in Kaduna, in Lagos, all over. I mean, all over. Two scenarios, 2 things that stood out. Again, negative news makes news, and negative things make news. Adamawa and Akwa Ibom. Because from what I read, lives were lost in the Akwa Ibom scenario. One newspaper quoted about 6 people dead. Wow. And INEC had to cancel the election afresh. That's sheer waste of resources. Honestly. I mean, the election could not be held conclusively on the first ballot way back in on February 25. You know, over 1 month after, you still went in 17 local and 17 polling units, and these people will not allow peaceful conduct of the election. They killed, they maimed, they destroyed the election material, and now Cyril Omoregbe, resident electoral commissioner for Akwa Ibom State, has said that election is utterly cancelled. Now, coming back to the Adamawa scenario, it leaves a sore taste in the mouth, to the extent that someone I consider a learned friend, as we say in law, who usurped the role of a returning officer to make a declaration, even without result. As in, you just stood up and started saying somebody is the winner of the election. Meanwhile, results are still being collected. For what purposes? Was he acting a script? Don't forget, there was a leaked audio where this same rec, who happens to be a lawyer, purportedly was instructing somebody to say, let's help this woman. I don't know whether you heard that, but that's part of what I gathered. Now, you had that audio tape leaked, and you still went ahead to act the script. You are not even concerned that you've been found out to have descended into the fray. And this is why we in civil society, we in the media, when we are raising issue about partisan nature of some of the people that President Buhari appointed into INEC, when we raise those issues and even sent letters to the National Assembly that some of these people should not be confirmed, they say we are rabble rousers. But it has come out very clearly. Remember the case of what's this woman that was taken to NDDC now? What's her name now? The new the chairman of NDDC, who happens to be a head to the president, who was initially nominated as a national commissioner in INEC. Loretta Onoche, God bless you. Loretta Onoche. She was not. Just imagine if someone like Loretta Onoche, if there were no hues and cries against her nomination and it has sailed through, and something like this. Something again also happened yesterday in Adamawa, where a national commissioner was stripped. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. And it shows that going forward, in fact, so many people will be afraid to take up the role of resident electoral commissioner or national commissioner, because what has happened now is the open partisanship. I was, when I saw the trending video, this man stood up with police commissioner by his side and said, I now pronounce Senator Aisha Binani. Where is the breakdown of the result upon which you are acting? At least if a returning officer was going to declare somebody winner, you said this is the overall score of each of the candidates. And then after that, you get to even the party agent will sign that, okay, this is a true reflection. But results were being collated. And even from press report, as before that unholy declaration was made, the press report said the incumbent governor, Amadou Fintiri, was leading in 10 local governments where results have so far been collated as at that time. Assuming without conceding that you have information that that lead was neutralized, allow the entire process to be, to pan out, and let the rightful person who had been appointed conclude. I recall that even when in February 25th, February 25 election in Rivers State, it so happened that the professor who happens to be the vice chancellor of Niger Delta University in Bayelsa, who then was the returning officer, when his life was put under threat, and he said he's not going ahead with the coalition, they had to guarantee his safety. The commissioner of police in Rivers State assured him that they will reinforce security around him. He should go ahead and do his job. The REC in Rivers did not descend to the arena as to usurp the responsibility of the returning officer. So this is a new, this alter. I'm a gender activist. I want Binani to win. I wish she wins. But if she must win, let it be seen that she won fair and square. Not that her victory was said. Because when you see the social media trending yesterday, particularly from yesterday afternoon, the opposition elements, this is what we are telling you people, that these people just wrote result, they just announced result and all of that. But as it is said in my part of the world, one slave, the misaction or inaction or the bad action of one slave will make people to blame 200 others. Just because one person acted wrongly. And I'm happy, let me say this, that promptly after that declaration was made, under 10 minutes, the INEC National headquarters nullified that pronouncement and said that the REC and the returning officer and any other person that has to do with that election should come to the headquarters in Abuja, which shows that at least they were able to quickly douse tension, because by now maybe only God knows how many deaths will have been recorded in Adamawa by now.
All right, now let's still take with INEC and the actions taken. Now, with what is unfolding right now in Adamawa State, how much damage has that done to INEC's reputation?
A lot.
Against the backdrop of what happened at the general election.
A lot. You see, in my part of the world, they say when you are accused of stealing a goat, you are not to be seen carrying the keys, the ghost keys, dancing. Quite a lot of opposition elements have said, oh, this INEC is cash and carry. This INEC, just wrote results. The results, in fact, all manner of things you get to read. Some of us have put our reputation on the line defending INEC. I don't work for INEC. I'm not a contractor with INEC. I've never benefited. I mean, I would not say that I gain any pecuniary or whatever benefit from. But I have stood because I've worked with the commission since 2002. That's over 20 years of working with different people within the electoral management body. As you know, in my former life, we were giving capacity building to electoral management body. So I got to know about the operations, procedures, and everything that. So that gives me an insight into the operations. But with what has happened yesterday, the confirmation that somebody can blindly and I'm short of the adjective to use, descended into the fray, and a lawyer for that matter. And then you saw Bidani also giving an acceptance speech. And then we saw video of, I don't know, I don't understand Hausa, I mean, I don't speak, but I saw a footage where somebody was, where they said, was it the rec or somebody admitted that they were giving 2 billion. Whether it was true, whether it was false, it wasn't said in English, so I didn't know exactly what was said. Well, I think anybody, it's very unlikely, excuse me, that you bribe somebody with 2 billion. But I can't put anything beyond political class, desperate politician. But the damage, the dent that this has brought on INEC, it will take some time to go away. More so, if INEC does not go ahead in coming weeks to weed out all the bad elements, people have been fingered to have compromised in the course of this 2023 election. Because this institution, after 2007 fiasco, it has taken a while to build people's confidence, people's trust in that institution. With the coming of Professor Jega, and then Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, it has taken a long while to start getting people to believe that the votes do count. But in a situation and scenario that we saw played out in Adamawa yesterday, it leaves a sore taste in the mouth. That somebody will openly, in front of camera, make a declaration, and you say you are a lawyer, you are you have no role. A resident electoral commissioner, yes, by law, you could be appointed as a returning officer. Prior to when Professor Jega came and brought academics to help with the result collation and announcement of winners, resident electoral commissioners were also playing the role of a returning officer. If you recall, I don't know whether you remember, Mrs. Ayoka Adebayo, the resident electoral commissioner in Ekiti State, way back in 2006, the woman was put under so much pressure to make a declaration, and she had to recuse herself. She went into hiding. They were looking for her because she knew that result is not appropriate. But that was way back in the 2000s. In fact, that was what brought about the genesis of inconclusive election. Mrs. Ayoka Adebayo was the resident electoral commissioner in Ekiti State then. But over the years, the trust, the confidence the people have was taken to high level, particularly in 2011, when an opposition element was able to defeat an incumbent. Then people say, oh, perhaps this commission should be given benefit of that. But with what has happened, my own take is that the blame still goes to the desperate political class. But why should you, as a staff of the electoral management body, allow yourself to be compromised, to be induced? It is the nature and the character of desperate politicians to look for allies within. Even Professor Atairu Jega said it, that politicians always earmark money to induce staff of the commission. And that's why you see they want to know who is the returning officer, they want to know who is the collation officer, they want to have the name. In fact, in 2023, we learned reliably that some politicians actually nominated people to serve as ad hoc staff. And of course, what will you do? Even if I were to be national chairman of INEC, you are recruiting 1.4 million people. I say 1.4 million. You concluded the whole exercise barely a week to election. Where is the time to do background check? Meanwhile, Section 8 of the Electoral Act says nobody working for INEC, either ad hoc or permanent, should be partisan, should be member of a political party. But who will do the screening for this huge number of people, 1.4 million, that you have to rely on? And of course, apart from those 1.4 million ad hoc staff, I'm referring to presiding, supervisory presiding officer, assistant presiding officer 1, 2, and 3, RAC Tech, and all of that. What about those who help with the logistics? NURT members who they rely on to deliver electoral materials. We know that many of these union members are partisan across. In Oyo State, let me tell you on good authority, anybody from Oyo State can bear me out. Right now, the leader of the NURTW in Oyo State is regarded as the de facto deputy governor of Oyo State. Why? Because of the influence he wields. And this influence comes forth during elections. The same thing in Lagos. Why did Labour Party go to court to say MC Oluomo should not be part of the distribution of election materials? But these are the same people INEC relies on for electoral logistics.
All right, so right now the collation of the Adamawa results has been moved to Abuja. Suspended? Yeah. I thought it was moved to Abuja.
Well, the last I read was that it was suspended. I don't think it will be right to move it to Abuja for whatever reason. The summon was basically to the REC, to the returning officer, to come explain what led to that unholy declaration. But I think it will be out of place for INEC to now make the declaration in Abuja. No, election was conducted because that could be a ground for petition. If they now make a declaration, because see, my sister, the 2023 Electoral Act is such that I knew someone, a politician in Cross River State, who lost her candidacy because the primary was not held in her constituency. They went to hold the primary outside of for security reasons. And our opponent went to court, up to Supreme Court, and they challenged and they cited the relevant section of the Electoral Act to say, you are supposed to have your primary within. So, by extrapolation, moving collation out of Yola to Abuja might show some measure of Well, let me not claim to have superior authority, but at least as at yesterday, what I read and the release that INEC issued, which I also have privilege of reading, was that the national, the resident electoral commissioner, the returning officer, and anyone that has to do with that election, they are expected, in fact, they said immediately should come to Abuja. Whether they were able to come to Abuja yesterday or they are coming today, it's for INEC to first find out. And INEC in that release also condemned the attack on its national commissioner because 2 of them were sent to Adamawa to supervise the whole exercise. I believe by now, today, tomorrow, INEC will also want to hear from those national commissioners and resident electoral commissioners deployed from other states what really transpired and why because the bottom line for me was, irrespective of whatever pressure, you as a resident electoral commissioner has not been assigned the role of a returning officer. So the best you could do is to advise the returning officer, Prof or Doc, please, this is what the law says. Because even the procedure that I learned was that even that yesterday, maybe the returning officer had been put under intense death threats or something. We learned that when the coalition was to start in the evening of Saturday, it was the admin sec that started the process. Then all of a sudden, they postponed till yesterday 11 a.m. And then the wreck surfaced. Where is the returning officer? If the returning officer is put under threat, your own is to report to Abuja to say, this is the scenario that's playing now. This man has refused to, conclude what we assigned him. So what do we do under this circumstance? But even if you are going to now appoint somebody else, there should have been an official resignation by the returning officer to say, my life is under threat, I cannot proceed with this work, I hereby resign, and INEC will now have the liberty to appoint a replacement to come and conclude, or even reinforce security around him to ensure that, because one thing that this whole scenario has pushed out is how far desperate politicians can go. How far they can go. They do not care whether lives or properties were destroyed. They just want to achieve their aim. And that's why it's very reprehensible for APC, Adamawa, and Mrs. Aisha Binani to have even accepted that kind of spurious victory. Because the right person was not, she is a serving senator. Was that how she was declared senator-elect in 2019? Of course not. Procedurally, you should have held back and even exercise caution rather than saying, because that same acceptance speech could have been given after the issuance of certificate of return. And that will come in 2-3 days. In fact, we have seen from the set of February 25 that I think 2-3 days after, they were all asked to come to International Conference Center and their certificates were issued. So why can't you just wait until the old dust around the legality or illegality of this, and INEC communicates you officially to say, yes, come and take your certificate of it. Then you can give your acceptance speech. That will have been in order. But when there are insinuations that money has exchanged, and then something that is procedurally wrong was done, and then the next thing we saw you accepting that victory. It shows that there is more to it behind the scene.
All right, so we're talking about, we have elections coming up later this year in November.
Yeah, November 11.
Yeah, we have elections in Kogi and the rest of it. Do you think that INEC will actually see this as an opportunity to redeem itself from what has actually transpired in previous elections?
What is the redemption we are looking for? The redemption here is not so much about INEC. I keep saying, we're missing the point. In my column in The Punch last week, was it last week or last 2 weeks, when I engaged this issue, I listed 10 actors and stakeholders in the electoral process. 10. We always focus on INEC, but it's wrong. INEC alone cannot deliver credible election. Let me run you through the 10 actors and stakeholders. You have the political parties. You have the contestants, either aspirants or candidates. You have the INEC. You have the media. You have the civil society, accredited observer. Then you have security agents. You have the judiciary. You have the legislature who makes the law. You have the electorate. And then you have the international donor partners. Why did I bring the donor partners into the whole fray? When you see Yaga Africa doing so much, you see CDD, you see, is it their funds? Is it the money made from the staff of CDD? Is it money donation they received? Grants they received from EU, from USAID, from UK aid. You get what I'm saying? So they are doing so much, but the funds comes from outside. So the donor partner, whether we say their contribution is small, whether small or big, some of us would not have had a career but for the support from the donor community. Because before I decided to be on my own in 2014, I've worked with about a number of civil society organizations, from Electoral Reform Network, moved to International Foundation for Electoral Systems, work with United Nations Development Program. All these agencies were funded by foreign countries or multilateral agencies, like UNDP, like I said, the European Union, bringing huge resources, euros, pounds, dollars, to support Nigeria's democracy. So these are the 10. Now you single out INEC, and I've given you a scenario. The scenario I've given you is that if desperate politicians will not behave themselves, will not play by the rules, if they will use the Machiavellian principle of the end justifies the means, declare me winner, let the opposition go to court. If that is the attitude we are still bringing to November election, we will get worse result. Did you watch the press interview given by Senator Smart at the end about the APC primary in Kogi State, where he said he didn't see any voting in Kogi West, but results were declared. I don't know whether you watch the footage. He said even if election were to be rigged, they will say, okay, maybe the inflated figure. He said there was even no election, and results were declared. And somebody is saying, oh, if you are not okay, go to court. So my take as an election expert is that we are running democracy without Democrats. And Professor Mahmoud Yakubu's tenure will soon expire. You will see what will happen. Now, everybody is demonizing him. Oh, you did this. The bottom line is that I've given you a scenario. 1.4 million ad hoc staff that you have to recruit from nowhere. These are people you don't know their background. They could be cultists, they could be politicians, they could be people with political sympathy. Of course, not they could be. Some of them are. By their actions, we saw those who used 2023 election to cash out. You get? So, the law, the electoral says, if you are partisan, don't work for INEC. But you deliberately start, or as a political, desperate politician, you just say, INEC is recruiting. Oh yeah, you go and apply. They all apply because INEC is looking for youth corps members and students of tertiary institutions, students of federal tertiary institutions. So they apply that on the portal. You shortlist them. You train them, you ask them, these are the things you are supposed to do. And then they went through. What will you do? These people have only worked for INEC for 2 days. I don't know if you understand my logic. Because the 2 days is, well, after you have been shortlisted, you go through 3 days of training. It's not all those who are trained that will have their names coming out as successful. So it's when they publish the list, maybe 2 days to election, that you know that you are successful. Now, you are asked to come to RAC Center, Registration Area Center, to stay the night so that you can go to your place of deployment. You refuse to do so. Inasmuch, and quote me on this, inasmuch as INEC have to rely heavily on people they do not have control over, politicians will continue to reach out to these people and influence them to do negative things. And the only way, the only antidote is that both for NURTW people who they, you know the scenario that played out before February 25th, when there was no cash, and INEC chairman had to go and meet CBN governor and say, look, you are going to jeopardize this election because our vendors need cash. Emefiele said, as much cash as you need, I will make available. Now, they made the cash available, but what did we say on the day of election? I was an accredited observer. I observed this election under the platform of Nigerian Women Trust Fund in FCT here. I saw late commencement of polls. Should that still have happened? 7th election? But these people you rely on to move materials, they have their interest. So that partisanship, I don't know how we are going to deal with it, but I feel the way to go, and INEC has also renewed the calls for Electoral Offences Commission bill to be passed. If you have Electoral Offences Commission and Electoral Offences Tribunal, just like CCB, Electoral Code of Conduct Bureau and Code of Conduct Tribunal, that if we have Electoral Offences Commission, even if there is no tribunal that deals with political and electoral offenses, like EFCC is dealing with economic and financial crimes. If you now have one that deals with political and electoral offenses, that is well resourced, that can arrest, investigate, and prosecute. Because right now, many of us don't know, INEC only has power to prosecute, does not have power to make arrest, cannot investigate. So these are the nuts and bolts we still need to tighten. So if you are going to have a better election on November 11 in Kogi, in Bayelsa, and Imo. Now, these are 3 volatile states. You know the story. You know the history. Bayelsa, in fact, in 2015, election in Bayelsa was declared inconclusive. I think also in 2019. Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. These are 3 volatile states where politicians will want to dig deep. And in as much as we have a political class that believes that might is right, use anything, just win. I read a scenario of what happened in Kaduna State. I don't know what the local government is. They said military was deployed. And when the military was deployed, police also were there. So talks came trying to snatch ballot boxes and all of that, and they were repelled. But after a while, the military were asked to leave. And when the military left, the talks ran riot. The police used the tear gas. It was not effective. These people did all they could to prevent people from coming to vote. That's the scenario that played out in. So who ordered those military to leave? It's a political decision. Okay. So what I'm saying is that if the ruling party, and I'm using the word ruling party because it's not only about the ruling party at the center. Even that's why you see local government elections conducted by respective states winning 100% in these local government elections. Why is that happening? Why would a small party not be able to win councillorship, and everything has to be won by the party that is in power at the state? It tells you of the mindset of the political class.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you're a gender activist.
Yes,
and as a woman, I'm actually all for, women having more say in the political space. Now, some quarters are of the opinion that the APC are desperate to announce Binani as, the first female governor, not minding the consequences. And you talked about the disappointment, when she came out with the acceptance speech and all that. Do you think it will have any negative effect on her career going forward?
It should, and definitely it should. It's obvious that she was so desperate, and because the little I read, the little I watched of that acceptance speech, she started by thanking Mr. President on his achievement to have produced the first female elect. Was it all about that? I mean, I've been involved in gender and elections. I've been a consultant to several gender groups like, Women Advocacy Research and Documentation Center in Lagos. I've been a consultant to Nigeria Women Trust Fund. I've been consulting for a couple of other gender-based organizations. RAPA, Women's Rights Advancement and Protection Alternative. If you go to all these institutions, I mention my name, they know me. And I've been working with them for over 15, close to 20 years. In different capacities. So we belong to a platform that we are just actually waiting for this good news that for the first time we were able to break the glass ceiling. Mama Taraba missed it by whiskers in 2019 in Taraba. And so we were all over. But I knew it was going to be an Herculean task. 31,000 lead cannot be easily neutralized. And aside from that, because I was on NTA on Friday, and when myself and Festus Okoye Esquire were the two guests on Nigeria Today on NTA last Friday, I were looking at whether that election should have even been declared inconclusive in the first place. But when Okoye came out with statistics, I agreed that yes, it was right, because Fintiri was leading by 31,200 and something votes. Then there were 36,000 PVCs collected. Then 42,000 plus registered voter in all the units. So if you extrapolate, assuming without considering that, okay, 36,000 were even being expected to turn out, there is still that possibility that if it's your strong area, if it's your what's they called, your strong area, yes, you could maybe nick it by a small margin, because I've seen election, even this election being won with 100 votes in some state constituency, federal constituency, the difference being that few. So, but the desperation that have been shown by APC and by extension is governorship candidate. I mean, the APC governorship candidate in Adamawa, for me, does not represent what Nigerian women would like to identify and associate with. Because if it were to be a case of being cheated, if there is an established cause of action that she was deliberately, or the system was being used against her, I would have been part of those who will have said on this morning, no, this is not right, give women a chance. But not that, one, there is an allegation of bribery, which has not been debunked. Then we saw the trend of events. The other thing, the leak tape of the rec, that let's help this woman, at least that phrase came out. Then the wreck himself jumping into the fray. Then you accepting, it just shows that there is a deliberate act that is maybe, like you said, maybe APC just wanted to break the gas lane, but that's not the way to go about it. When Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, the world mourns because we were looking forward to the first female president of the US. But it didn't happen. Okay, 4 years after that, what happened? We have Kamala Harris as vice president of US, the first to be produced. But not under this kind of disputed election where obviously it was. In fact, my own projection as an analyst, I knew Kebbi was going the way of APC because of the margin of lead. But I had my doubt whether APC would have been able to neutralize 31,000 lead in a scenario where there are only 36,000 PVCs collected. You know why? Because that's 36,000 PVC collected, there will be unlikelihood of 100% voter turnout. So if 36,000 collected PVC and the normal trend that we see across the election is less than 50% voter turnout. So even if there are 36,000 people who collected PVC, that tendency that you will be able to neutralize a 31,000 lead is almost zero. So I had my doubt that was going to happen. But we were cautiously optimistic that maybe a miracle will happen. But this is not the kind of miracle we're looking for. This is not the miracle at all.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo, for all the analysis and also spending time with us this morning.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, so that was thank you so much. All right, so that was Mr. Jide Ojo. He's a political scientist, a columnist, an author, and also a public affairs commentator. And with that, we've come to the end of a Daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Have yourselves a wonderful week ahead.
All right, that's Daybreak for today. Tomorrow is another one. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.